Welcome to another episode of the Make Mental Health Matter show. I am your host, Kelly Melissa Reinhart, and I am excited for my guests today. But before I share that, which is kind of funny going into this because I had technical challenges with my camera this morning, which is super awesome. But you'll know why I think it's funny here in a second. I just wanted to kind of follow through with where we went last week and really have this conversation about how mental health can affect us, or we can experience mental health challenges no matter what place or experience we go through in life, no matter where we work, where we live, all of the things that you want to add in there. And also, it is important as we go throughout life to kind of change it up. And laughter is such a great part of life. And also being able to share experiences with other people. And the reason why I thought it was kind of funny that I had technical challenges. I'm pretty technical myself. I have a tech background, but and I do all of the backside for my nonprofit Make Mental Health Matter. However, I had some issues with my camera this morning. It just didn't really feel like working. And the reason why I think it's funny is because the guest that I have today is in the IT services. So, without further ado, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my guest for today, and then I'm going to bring him up, and we're going to hope that my camera, stays active for today. But we all know with live TV, you never know what's going to happen. So, my guest for today, his name is Matt, and he has a wealth of experience in IT and is dedicated to crafting sustainable software solutions and deliver a comprehensive suite of IT services, such as cybersecurity, laptop, desktop repair, virus and spy removal, and more. Embracing a client-centric ethos, he engages with you from the onset to tailor solutions that precisely match your requirements, offering a blend of inventive thinking, efficient strategies, and scalable approaches. Matt ensures seamless development of optimal outcomes. His mission is to alleviate your technological concerns, if my mouth can go as fast as my mind, providing reassurance and tranquility. Re-owned for his creative problem solving, Matt excels in identifying innovative methods to streamline expenses and enhance performance. Additionally, he offers remote solutions, ensuring accessibility and flexibility in his service delivery. So now you know why I thought it was a little funny that I was having some technical challenges before I jumped on today. So without further ado, I am going to bring my guest up for today. Matt, thank you so much for joining me.
Hi there, Kelly. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, other than, my technical challenges this morning, can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself? And I gave a brief bio, but share a little bit more.
Yeah, so basically the easiest thing I could describe as myself is I am nerd for hire. And so unless you're living under a rock and not like Dwayne Johnson, uh, we all use technology to function in society now, almost on the level of like being able to speak English. And so you're trying to simplify something that's inherently complex. And that's where I come in, where I pull the hootie and the blowfish, I hold your hand, and I make sure that whether it's on the individual side or a solopreneur side or the small business side, that your technology is working with you and for you, not against you. Not just computers, but phones, tablets, modems, routers, scanners, webcams, gaming systems, smart devices like your refrigerator, your speakers, your TVs, even your car. I would say, a Hyundai Tucson. I had a software upgrade. I had to pop in a flash drive and go update my software implementations in my car. So all those things require some level of technical maintenance or servicing, or you have problems or issues, or you're frustrated, or it's not working with you, or God forbid, You pull a Beastie Boys and listen to all y'all to sabotage. You don't want to get compromised out there. So that's where I come in to sit there and guide you, whether it's Windows or Mac or Android or iPhone or any other platforms, to make sure that your different tech toys, your tech tools, and your gadget goodies work with you and for you, not against you.
Nice. Yeah, I mean it's so important, especially in the world of technology today. And I just think that we kind of underestimate, we like expect everything to just work how it's supposed to work, but that's not really how it always works out. So definitely good to have somebody like you in your back pocket.
Sure. And for example, I always tell people, if it works, you've gotten lucky. If it doesn't, don't be surprised. And so technology is inherently mediocre because basically most of the time humans are designing it and then computers are checking it. And that's why you end up having problems or issues. For example, today, Big Apple Day, new software across the platforms. And I know because I'm stuck in the Appleverse. So whether you have a Mac or an iPhone, iPad, your watch, your TV, all those things are sitting there and getting updates today. So it's a very big Apple Day, especially with the ability now for Android to finally communicate with iPhone on text messages properly. It's called RTS communication, where you'll be able to get text messages, send out videos that actually work, and that's also encrypted both end to end. It wasn't encrypted on both sides before, and finally, Apple's finally giving in and doing that on the newest software that's coming out.
Wow, I am also in the Appleverse. So I did notice today that my Mac had a little bit of a challenge up, like getting up and running, but I haven't done the update yet. So I will
Well,
have to.
yeah, well, Sequoia is coming out at 1 p.m. Eastern, so they always, throw everything out there, all 5 operating systems, all at 1 o'clock, and so it's gonna be a busy, updating day because I play the guinea pig, kind of like my little friend here. In terms of testing everything out, so you don't have to. So I rather take the fall, and have the problem than you do. So that's the beauty that I offer my clients, is that let me experiment for you, so you don't go through the heartache and aggravation that I might.
Yeah, I love that. So I have two questions popping in my head. The first one is actually a thought and then a question. I love the fact that they're finally able to communicate, because I think it's funny when you send Apple to Android and it comes up backwards, like the messages are backwards or chunked. And then most people are like, "What are you trying to say?" And you're like, "No, I wrote it out the right way," and you're not getting it the right way. So I always find that comedic, but hopefully now it'll work properly. And then I am curious. So when we talk about updates, I've always heard that people are like, don't do the update right away because there's going to be more things that are wrong with it if you wait. But I usually just update whenever it comes out. So any thoughts there?
Oh, sure. So the easiest analogy I can say is this. Like, you've heard, like, in the car industry, never buy a new model when it first comes out because it's going to have problems or issues. This is the same concept when it comes to major software releases. So for those who don't know, there is a major number and there's like a minor number. So you'll have like 18.1 or 18.0. So the 18.0, the 18 is that major release. So when you jump major numbers from like 17 to 18, that's a major release. It's going to sit there and change probably a good deal of things. And then when you jump that to that big new number, that first number, that's when you can run into most of the problems. So think of it like the first page, the first chapter of a book, and you're going from chapter 17 to chapter 18. Now you can also have like a dot one or dot two or O1. So the O1 is a very minor update. The dot one is a more significant minor update. So with the dot ones or dot twos, those are usually safer because you made the jump to the first big number. So the way it works is that the first number, the 18, is the major number. The dot one is the minor number, and the dot two is like a small fixer patch or update. So the longer the number, the more minor the update. The bigger the number, especially by itself, that's the more major or significant update.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes more sense. And I have noticed that over time. And usually I try to hold off a little bit till they get to the dots. So
Exactly. So yeah, so I tell people as a rule of thumb, wait for the dot one. Now, of course, you can have those rare exceptions where the dot zero works great. I've had that before. So I'm very curious. For example, like the latest one coming out is Sequoia. Are you on Sonoma now?
I am, yeah.
Okay, all right, yeah. So they're staying in California. Now we're up to trees, and so this is what's coming out today. And like one of the big things with the new one is you can actually see your iPhone on your Mac and control your iPhone from your Mac, which is pretty nifty. So
Wow.
so I'm looking forward to that. And the compatibility is like almost down to like the 2018 Mac. On the iPhone side, you have all the way down to the 10X and the 10R and things like that. So Apple usually is good about supporting machines at least 5 or 6 years old. So if you're not sure if your Apple supports the newest software, you have my QR code there. You can scan it, get more information about me, and then I can always help you and then determine what's good for you. And like the nerdy version of the Clash, do you stay or do you go?
Yeah. I love that. And so I'm curious, what got you into IT originally?
I can blame my dad for that. So basically, I was a kid back in the '80s, and my dad was an accountant, and he bought like one of the original IBM PCXTs back in like 1985. When Back to the Future came out, and the thing was like $5,000 back in 1985, and it had actually had a hard drive, a 10 megabyte hard drive, and I learned DOS. And by the time it turned on, you could have a cup of coffee and then go back for a second. And so when I was 8 years old, I learned that. And so that's what started me on my journey is when 3% of the country had computers, I was one of those 3%, which is awesome. So
That's amazing. It's funny that you say that. We actually yesterday watched Back to the Future because it was on Disney and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I haven't watched this for so like since the 80s. I haven't watched it." And it was just blew my mind at the technology from then to the technology of now, but how advanced they were just in that show in general. So, definitely something interesting to go watch if you haven't watched Back to the Future in a really long time.
yeah, and what's funny is that when they actually went to the future is like 2015, that is now the past.
Yep. Yeah, that's what I'm like, wow, like they were trying to get into the future, which we're like, "Oh my gosh, that's so amazing." And then now you're like, that's not really what happened in 2015.
But what's interesting from that movie though is Nike did actually come out with the sneakers that actually tie themselves.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting. I'm gonna have to, like, go watch all the rest of them, all the sequels to see, how it translates into now or in now history, but, it's pretty cool. Back to the Future is one of those great movies that you have to
Oh,
watch.
sure. Well, I mean, also look at Star Trek. Tricorders are basically cell phones. So a lot of our technology now is inspired by sci-fi, Star Wars, Star Trek, Back to the Future, Terminator. Come with me if you want to live. So all those things help to shape us and where we are now for technology. We actually have flying cars. We don't have too many of them, but we have it, and we're going to have like Rosie the robot from like the Jetsons, and that's coming out too. So again, are the shows or movies that we watch do help in those respects to motivate engineers and scientists to draw new technologies and then move us into more so the 21st century.
Yeah, that was the other one, the Jetsons. I was like, man, by this time in the Jetsons, we had all flying cars and we had those
Yes.
tubes that would like suck us wherever we want to go.
Yep. So it's pretty amazing where it's coming and where it's still going. Again, the big thing now is AI and what's going to happen there. And so it's going to be very interesting, in our lives to see how humans and technology are going to intermix and how it's going to affect us going forward as a society.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to go to our quick first sponsored break, which is actually sponsored by Matt. So the episode today is sponsored by Matt and his company. So you'll get to see his commercial here in a moment. But once we get back, I have a couple more questions that we're going to just chat more about technology and see where this goes. So we'll be right back after this quick sponsored break. And like that, we're back. I want to also drop, so it's mattspcservice.com. Again, he did sponsor this episode. So thank you, Matt, for sponsoring. And the commercial was on there about all of the services. But again, his website link for those of you that are watching is mattspcservice.com. If you happen to be just joining us for the Make Mental Health Matter, thank you so much for tuning in. And we are talking about technology today because, as you know, in this world that we are deep in technology. I mean, I think about, so my son, he is 9, and I never, ever thought that I would get my 9-year-old a phone, especially an iPhone 15. But they happened to have a special this last summer, right around his birthday, that I could get it with a trade-in for free. So I was like, well, maybe it's time, because then I can communicate with my son, but also more specifically, my husband is not on any of the social channels, so they weren't able to connect. But I never thought a 9-year-old would have a cell phone. I know for us, because I was born in 1980, and I had a pager like in high school, and we just thought it was really cool that you could turn it upside down and you could read the words, and you were like, hello, or call me, or whatever it was. But now kids have iPhones or a cell phone in elementary, which blows my mind. So technology is out there, and it is something that we utilize all the time. So I am curious, and you gave a lot of information about how you can really help, and then what got you into IT. And this show, I mean, what we're really talking about, or what we talk about, is mental health, and really how that plays a role, especially with technology today. So I'm curious, as we talk about that, what comes up in your mind as related to mental health and technology?
Well, unfortunately, and again, I'm just as guilty as everybody in this, is that um, as much as I love technology, obviously you mentioned about the mental health factor. So the problem with technology is that there's more ways than ever to communicate with people, but yet we feel disconnected. And we feel disconnected because you can see a text, but there's no like emotional or mental connotation involved. Yes, you may be able to hear somebody's voice, or you may be able to see them, but even if it's virtual, it's not the same as physically being around humans. And so, because of the evolution of humans and being social creatures, even if you're alone and you have those social aspects, there's still that disconnect. I feel that when I talk to people online, where I could see their text or see something in a forum or on IM of some kind, or watch a video and comment on that, or you're watching a live stream, but it's not the same thing as being in front of people. So also with technology, unfortunately, you also have cyberbullying and what's out there too, and the mental health that could take a toll on people, to the fact where it's not just depression, and it could also be people that are suicidal because they feel threatened at school, people are bullying them online, and people want to sit there and kill themselves, and that's unfortunate. And so unfortunately in this country there is a stigma about mental health, and they think that you're weak or you need help or you just get over it, is like the typical bullshit response you'll hear from people. And it isn't like a cold, and people don't necessarily understand that. And so from somebody who suffers from moderate depression along with social anxiety, and those aspects, it hits very close to home to me, because unlike computer, usually the computer can't talk back to you, humans can. And so the question is, technology can be great to find that support or find that help, but the problem is also it can be very much a hindrance if it's not used properly or it's used very negatively. For example, in society now, look at all the cancel culture. And God forbid you don't sit there and agree with my way of thinking and viewing, social media, whether it be Twitter or now X or Instagram or Facebook. They've all become the judge, the jury, and executioner, where you're guilty before you're even innocent at all, just because you don't say what's popular. So again, it's turned society less tolerant and less open-minded and more narrow-minded and more judgmental. Because you're hiding behind the screen, it's easy to say anything and not have any consequence necessarily, where in real life that doesn't necessarily happen.
Yeah, I actually just had a conversation with my son regarding similar to this because one, all of his, of course, with his cell phone, I have parental control on it, and it's like it's locked down, whereas not all of his friends have that, which I'm like, well, I'm your mom. But also I talk about it a lot, is that we used to be able to leave our bullies at school, right? Like we could leave them. They didn't know or couldn't get a hold of us via text message. And now it has made it worse because kids can just text and they don't have to worry about it, or there's not really any accountability that they're held to unless you're a parent that monitors what your kid is doing, right? So it comes down to the parents and making sure that your kids are utilizing technology in a good way, not in a negative way. But also my son, I mean, so the reason why this also pops into my head, because you have nerdy Matt. So my son and I just had a conversation the other day, and I was like, I'm a nerd. Like, I love technology. I was in tech support in my corporate job, and I started learning how to program and code, and like that was super cool to me. I probably don't remember any of it now, but it's cool. Like, I think it's cool. I like to do things like that, and I'm like, I'm a nerd and I'm proud of it. But I had talked to him because I guess one of the kids at school, he has right now his tooth front teeth, and then his canines are coming in because he lost them. And one of the kids at school told him to smile, and he's like, "You look like the nerd emoji." And he got really mad and sad about it. Yeah. Like, I was like, that's kind of funny. But then I'm like, oh, that's not really. And I was like, well, own it. I'm like, if you're like, be like, yeah, I'm a nerd and nerds rule the world. And so we had a whole conversation about like Bill Gates and Elon Musk. And I was like, all of these inventors, they're total nerds. And he's like, well, that's not cool, mom. And so I was like, okay, fair enough. I get it. You're in fourth grade. Like, you're worried about all those things. And he's like, nerds get bullied. But we just had this whole conversation around being a nerd. And it's a little bit different and challenging when we're talking with fourth graders versus adults, where we're like, yeah, I'm a nerd and I don't care, right? Because we have that confidence.
Well, it's not just that, it's also the maturity level. Like, I mean, I remember being in middle school, because we're not that far apart in age, and like, the last thing you want to do is be labeled as a nerd. It was a negative connotation. It wasn't a positive. be a jock, or be like like even like in band, you were a band nerd, which I was a band nerd, so I know. So, but ultimately, it's about at that age, that social acceptance, fitting in, having friends, being a part of the popular kids. And so, if you are labeled, you're ostracized, and that could also lead to anxiety or depression, or basically, not basically unhappiness in general, because of the fact that you don't fit in and you're yearning for that social acceptance and unconditional love to a certain extent. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I know, I mean, as we get older and our brains fully develop and all the things, right? Like it becomes an easier conversation. But I definitely, as I got older, I accepted and embraced being the quote unquote nerd, right? Because
yeah,
now those people that learned the technology earlier, they're the ones that have created everything for us, which I think is just brilliant to be able to bring that up with our kids. And but also making sure that they're using technology in a good way versus a negative way is definitely that whole conversation.
exactly. And that's the beauty of Apple, is they're very family centric, in terms of allowing parents to monitor their children. And more importantly, what's great is that they have multiple age ranges, from like preschoolers to like the 5 to 10-year-old to like the preteens and then the teenagers. So you have multiple tiers of age ranges, and then also you can adjust it, accordingly as well. So again, Apple makes it very family friendly, especially with like Apple One and stuff like that, where you can sit there and monitor your kids, know what's going on, and then also block them from what's out there in terms of all the bad things or negativity about the world of technology. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And we're not just saying Apple, right? I know that there's always this great debate over Apple or Android, but I
well,
know.
look, I have my Android phone here. So here's my iPhone. Here's my Android phone. I don't want to hear any shit from people say, "Oh, you're an Apple fanboy." No, I swing both ways. Okay, don't give me any crap for this. So it's like I'll give you Android love. Just give me a chance. I have one. So I have a Pixel. So
Nice. And they almost look identical, interestingly enough.
yes. Well, I'm a 5-year-old. So, for example, like on this one, I have my life wallpaper where the animals move. So,
Nice.
so anyway,
That's awesome. Yeah, I was always Android and I was like, I only do Android and I only do PC. And then I shifted into the Apple world and now I'm like, I don't ever want to go back there.
yeah. Well, I mean, have to give Apple credit where it's due. They used to be horrible when it came to putting out patches and fixing things. They've gotten a hell of a lot better on all their platforms. I mean, for example, like a lot of their software, they'll put out like 5 to 10 betas, which is awesome. They're constantly testing and tweaking their software, which is great because the user base is so large that if there's another major catastrophe, like I remember the problems with iCloud and the whole debacle there, or they come out with updates or just crash the phone. I've had that bullshit before. So they really have gotten a lot better over the years, because I bought the first 3GS back in 2009. I was on iOS 3 back in the day. So I've been doing it a long time and I've gone through those heartaches. And so Apple is aware of that. Like I remember Antenagate with the Apple 4, where you hold it and then you lose the bars. And Steve Jobs time say, "We're going to give you a free bumper, so it's no problem." Even though they knew it was a problem, there's this backlash because of it. So Apple hopefully has learned from a lot of their mistakes. And when you get these new software packages, they are a lot better tweaked, which is great, because as much as I love making a living, I hate people being frustrated and aggravated and feel like they're like want to fight like two rednecks on Jerry Springer. So so ultimately, it's only good is how well the manufacturer designs the product, the physical product, and then also the virtual product. Now, on the Android side, Google's finally gotten their act together, and they now have 7 years of Android OS updates. If you buy the Pixel 9 that just came out, and I think even the Pixel 8, if you have pure Google like I have, a Pixel 6, you get 7 years of OS updates, which is great. So they're fine catching up to Apple because, like, for example, my Pixel 3, next year, after 3 years, no more OS updates in terms of the major ones. I got to buy a new phone already. So they're copying Apple, thankfully, and that to me is a positive, not just for the industry, but also for consumers as well.
Yeah, I mean, the cycle that you have to go through, and I know that like every single year it's like there's a new phone and then you buy the like latest phone, then the next phone comes out and you're just like, okay, there every single phone is like 800 to 1500 every single time you have to buy a phone, and then you're doing a payment plan or maybe you got a trade, and it's just like, okay, can we just like be okay with some version that actually works versus having to keep in this cycle that I mean, I get it. They're making money.
Well, the thing is, it's basically a perpetual vicious cycle because we have to keep, Steve Jobs going from the iGrave. And so the way what I always tell people this is that don't keep up with the Joneses. There is absolutely no need to. However, if you hit a point of obsolescence where the device is no longer supported by Apple and basically you can't get those oil changes anymore, then it's time to upgrade. Also, if the phone is freezing, if your phone is pulling like a Snoop Dogg and your calls are dropping it like it's hot, that to me isn't good either. So basic functionality should work. If your phone is running slower than my dating life, at that point you're having issues and there's only so much I could do to fix it there. So at that point it pays. Or you're running out of storage and you can't get any more iCloud, at that point it pays. So there are certain criteria to look for, and I help you determine, yes, it's time. You can stay with what you have, or no, for these reasons, I'll pull a Spock, I'll be all logic and say, this is why you should go upgrade, and this is what you're going to gain from it. Because I've already been there before.
Yeah, and that's amazing. So we're going to go to our quick last sponsored break. And then when we get back, I want to talk a little bit more about like those specific things that you can help people with, no matter like what they come to you for. So we'll be right back after this quick sponsored break. I lost my middle sister, Kelli, to a completed suicide on February 20th, 2017.
My story, Oliver, it isn't unique. I am a domestic violence survivor and a recovering addict. For 14 years, I was in active addiction. And because of Kelli and the work that she does and the opportunity to have my voice heard, I was able to stay clean and sober and have hit a year. I'm still here. And if it wasn't for Kelli answering my call the day that I thought I was going to take my life.
Curious, and I know that I've heard a lot in the BIPOC community, it is very hush hush. It's like one of those things that you don't talk about. Like you literally feel like it's not a conversation you can have. So can you talk a little bit more about that?
First, shout out to Kelli, because I'm glad that she asked the question. I researched you before I went on your show, and I saw how real and authentic you were. And I just appreciate the question because it is different, and we have to have tough, courageous conversations. So yes, I always say I'm a triple diversity threat. I'm a Black woman with multiple disabilities. Now, I'm not really a threat, but to other people, I may be, because people fear the unknown and what they're uncomfortable with.
Kelli's passionate commitment to mental health awareness is a beautiful thing. It's clear in her social media posts, it's clear in the resources that she puts together, in the activities that she provides, her collaboration with organizations, and the consistent way that she continues to deliver a message, encouraging people to understand that they can share openly and to break the stigma around mental health. Kelli's topics cover children and adults, talk about things that we can do as a community, things that we can do individually, And her website is packed with information and resources and all kinds of contacts that you can use to reach out, whether you're dealing with something yourself or you're looking to help somebody else who is struggling. I encourage you to check it out.
And like that, we're back. All right. If you happen to be just joining the Make Mental Health Matter, thank you so much for tuning in. Nerdy Matt and I are having a great conversation about IT, not trying to debate about Apple versus ISO or ISO. Those are the same thing. Apple versus Android, but just teaching you, if you are using technology, which most of us are today, the differences in the two, and then really what Matt can help you do if you have technology challenges that come up. I like to use the word challenge. I know it's probably super frustrating for some people, but that's why Matt is here and can help you. So I wanted to talk about what specific services. I know you already talked about it a little bit at the beginning, but let the audience know if what you could provide specifically.
Well, first of all, let me say this. The beauty of who I am is that no matter where you are in the world, as long as you have an internet connection that is at least viable or at least fast enough, I can remote in to help you. Can I fix everything? No. Can I pull a Terminator and put my hand through the screen yet, and start fixing things? It hasn't gotten there yet. I'm sure it will. But so really, I could probably do about 80% of my work remotely. So, for example, like Kelli, I believe you're in Colorado. I'm in Florida, but I can still help you, remotely to mostly an extent. And the same thing goes for anybody in the world. So that's the beauty of what I do. So probably the biggest things that I find with people is functionality. Programs crash, things are not working, slowness. I'm afraid I got compromised. Is this email real? Is it a scam? How do I protect myself on the web? We had that big data breach by, the NPD where 3 million, social security numbers got compromised. How do I protect myself from what's out there? And what do I look for? And how do I, make sure everything stays up to date, protected, whatever? That's where I come in to help you with those processes. So that's the beauty of who I am. You have Windows, you're covered. You have Mac, you're covered. You have a Chromebook, you're covered. You have an iPhone, iPad, Android tablet, you are covered. So you have things like an Ecobee, I can help you there. Gaming system, Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, I can help you there. So it's a number of different facets where everything has its idiosyncrasy and everything has an update. And so the question is what's valuable to you? What do you use for either play or work? And how do you want to sit there and get the most out of something? Or something's not running right, you can't get online, you can't connect, the printer doesn't work properly, you can't scan, you can't open this email, you can't make this attachment. Those general things of functionality is where I shine to help you with that. I work from 10 to 80. Or 10 to 90 because I'm in South Florida. It's God's waiting room. So it doesn't matter necessarily your age, as long as you're not just patient with me, but patient with yourself and patient with the process, then at that point I can assist you and get you back to the 21st century.
Amazing. So you could definitely, I'm just thinking one of my friends that feels like they have spyware on their iPhone. That could be something that you could find for them.
Yes, and there are tools to find for that. And then also a lot of times the software updates will help as well. But really it's a matter of looking for certain things. So for all intended purposes, I am technology Sherlock. And I gotta look for computer clues, and then like the nerdy version of Humpty Dumpty, I gotta put everything back together again.
Amazing. And you're entertaining. So, it's even better.
Look, Jewish comedian, which is redundant. So, or as my woolly friend here says, you can do it.
I love that. That's so cute. I also am curious, because I have heard over time that Macs are the ones that have it's like harder to hack into. Is that true?
Oh, hell no. Not anymore. Those days are over because Apple is so popular now. Hackers are getting into Apple. And so malware and spyware are still an Apple thing. But I always tell people this because people say this is like as divisive as like politics or religion or sports or things like that, is that both platforms have their pros and cons. Windows has its pros and cons, and Mac has its pros and cons. So with Windows, the computer will cost less, but the maintenance is more. Also, Microsoft is dramatically more problematic for putting out bad updates, system crashes, or breaking functionality. But the computers are cheaper overall. So there's more maintenance on a Windows machine, but less cost up front in terms of the actual computer, typically. Now, with Apple, the patches and the OS tend to be more stable and more secure, yet you're paying for the fruit in the back and you're paying the Apple tax. So the computer will be inherently more expensive, but yet my maintenance is at least 25% less. Now, both platforms can be compromised. I would say Windows can be compromised probably at least 2/3 more, but Apple can still be compromised. It's not far-fetched and can cause your famous pinwheel of death when you are on your Mac to spin. So it can happen. So the question is, what programs are going to work for the platform? Will everything work that you want to do on an Apple? Will it not? And you need Windows, or you need something like Parallels to run like a virtual machine and get Windows on your Mac? Or is Windows going to be, it because of the programs you run or because of your budget? So you have to do what's best for your interests, best for you as an individual or as a business owner, and do what feels right. I'll give you the pros and cons, and then you make the decision best for you.
Amazing. And I think that's what I've heard, right, is like some people are just not sure what the pros or cons are. And then just understanding that you can get hacked on both. But yeah, I have always heard that. But I do know as we move forward in technology, hackers are getting better. And so
Sure.
we just have to be aware of what we're using or not using.
Yeah, and the scary thing is I have my web lady, her son got a fake call from an AI bot, and the AI bot duplicated or replicated one of the voices that this guy knew, and he thought it was real, and then he got scammed out of $9,000. So that's what is going to start happening now, is you're going to have AI malware, and that's going to get really interesting going forward. Or AI phone calls where people impersonating other people that and they're copying voices and they're sitting there impersonating that. So the AI component is going to be a benefit and detriment to society and how you get compromised. So if you're not sure, then that's why I'm available. Or you call other people saying, did you actually do this? So if it sounds good to be true, or it sounds like it could be, fishy, then at that point, get a second opinion. I can't tell you how many people will take the plunge on their own. They think they know what they're doing, and then they get hacked or compromised, and then I have to clean up the mess. And that's heartbreaking, not just for them, but also for me to have to help you for those reasons. So be vigilant. Get a second opinion. You don't have to know everything. If you're not sure, hang up and call somebody you might know. Also, Chromebook. I have a Chromebook too. Those can also get hacked and compromised too. So any platform can get hacked or compromised. Your car, your smart fridge, your Ecobee, as long as you have protection there and you patch things if you can, that to me is half the battle right there.
Yeah, so what popped in my head was I thought of Transformers and this toaster becoming one of the Transformers. But it's possible that your coffee machine could get hacked into. So
Yes.
be aware of all the things.
Yeah, well, it's very easy. It's very easy to say. If it goes online, it can be hacked and compromised. If it doesn't go online, fine. So your abacus is fine. Your string with 2 styrofoam cups is fine. Your computer, not so much.
Right, exactly. Well, this has been an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for sharing just all the things, all the layers of technology today, and really being on both sides, right? It's not one versus the other. It's whatever works for you. And I want to drop one more time Matt's website. It is mattspcservice.com. And where else can people find you if they want to, whether reach out or follow you?
Well, I'm also on LinkedIn. It's LinkedIn, I think, /Matt Roseman. Of course, there's always my phone number. For those of you who are international, it's +1, and it's 954-263-8784. You can also email me. It's matt@mattspcservice.com. You find me there. So those are probably the most popular ways that I go online. And of course, there's always, this podcast. You have my QR code on the screen there as well. So I'm not that hard to find. And at that point, I have no problem assisting you and getting you to where you need to be, and then helping you along the way. So
amazing. Well, thank you so much for such a great conversation. And I just appreciate you being my guest for today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate it, Kelli.
Yeah. All right, y'all, that was another amazing episode of Make Mental Health Matter. I hope you got some good information out of this conversation as related to technology. It's not an Apple versus PC or iPhone versus Android. iPhone, yep, got them right. It's really whatever works for you, and just understanding that you have somebody like Matt in your back pocket that can help you with whatever challenge you're experiencing with your technology. And again, he can do it from anywhere if you're anywhere in the world. And I know that this show goes out to the whole world. So those of you that are out there and you're like, man, I need Matt's help. Again, I'm going to drop his, those of you that are watching, it's mattspcservice.com. There is also a QR code behind him, so you can scan that. And those of you that are listening, go to his website and be sure to reach out, because I'm sure there's no problem that is too big other than maybe a actual hardware issue. If you're not in Florida, that might be a little difficult, because again, it's not like he can stick his arm through the computer yet. So if you have a software challenge, reach out to him, whether it's on your computer or your phone or wherever it is. But no matter what you do, make sure that you come back next week. I have another amazing guest line up. I'm not sure if we're rolling still with the theme of laughter and really changing the direction versus the hard conversations that we've had. But I think that these are important conversations to have also about technology and how it's related to mental health. And I mean, I know it can get really, really stressful, especially when it's not working how you want to. I know I sit here sometimes and I'm like, come on, move faster. But that's how my brain works. So I have to remember to be patient and to stay calm. And eventually my computer will catch up with my brain, maybe. But either way, be sure to come back next Monday at 5 p.m. Mountain Time on E360 TV, or you can listen on Dream Vision 7 Radio at 5 a.m. or 5 p.m. by simply saying, Alexa, play Dream Vision 7 Radio. I will see you next week. Bye, y'all.